How you doing? We got to check in and see how he did down in Peru. I got to talk to Hillbilly Harry. Let you guys know how did he do. All right. Now, happy day 26, everybody. We are rapidly approaching the end of this challenge, and I hope you did a great job. I hope you had a great time doing the challenge. I hope you had a lot of fun. I hope you learned about yourself. I hope you stoked that fire. I hope you got creative, and I hope you realized that you can do more than you think you can do. Okay, I hope you started to understand that there are ways to unlock entire new worlds for you, and you're completely capable of doing it. You can do it just as easy as 30 minutes a day for 30 days. 30 for 30, 30 for 30, 30 for 30, 30 for 30. That's how we're doing it, okay? Now, check in with yourself. How you doing? It all starts there, okay? The internal locus of control. Are you stoked? Do you have impulse control and you got that critical eye firmly in hand, locked in the hole? Do you have your schedule? Is your time going where you want it to go? Your time is the currency of your life, people. Think about that. The currency of your fucking life, okay? Now, that means a lot of things. Currency is, of course, finance. Currency is also electricity. It's life. It's the life of your life. Think about that. Time is the life of your life. You know, that's a little wordplay right there for you. So think about that, okay? So push it where you want it to go, okay? Make sure your current is going to the right circuit, to the right place, to animate the right things so that you have the life that you want to live, okay? Now I'm working on a couple of covers. I told you guys about that. And I was trying to do, I thought maybe I could do a little, AI, right? And for the lettering, I was going to use AI for the lettering. And I was going to go in and I was going to say, hey, can you use this as an example, Mr. AI man, and make this instead, right? Because I'm trying to do a parody or whatever. And I'm trying to use a logo or lettering like some other people's lettering. And the AI didn't want to cooperate. It wanted me to sign in, give over my paperwork, all my identity, consent so it could steal all my information, and wanted to take my blood, I wanted my firstborn, I wanted me to sign a 100-year contract, give half my soul to the devil, all that good stuff. So I opted out. I didn't do it, right? So I went ahead and I had to do it the old-fashioned way, okay? So I'm working on this right here. That's some of my words for the old-fashioned way that I got to do today, and I got to get that scanned in and then cut out the old-fashioned way, okay, on the computer. So I'm working on that, right? So, we all hit impediments, right? And we all need to have firmly in control our ability to, if we have obstacles, to go back to something that's completely within our control so that we can push ourselves forward and not be sabotaged by something else. I was talking to D-Wag, my bro out there in Indiana. D-Wag, shout out to you. All right, he was eating some donuts the other day. And we were talking about him getting his channel going and all this kind of stuff. And I was saying, bro, you have to initially do things that only you need to rely upon yourself for, right? And I likened it to this. There's 3 phases in a company, right? There's 3 time periods in a company. There's the startup phase, when you're in your garage and you're, working those 30-hour nights or whatever, eating donuts at like 2 o'clock in the morning, packaging things up and shipping them out. Then there's the gazelle phase, which is the medium level phase. After you graduated, became successful in your startup, now you got a lot of good money or whatever, and you can start to get your own building, and you get employees, and you get all this stuff, right? And you get, you know, 30 to 100 to 200 to 500 employees, whatever. And then there's the legacy phase. When you get successful enough to go beyond that, now you're so big, you have multiple buildings, you have buildings in other states and other countries, offices, and you got employees everywhere, and you got big, huge budgets and everything like that. In the startup phase, you have one set of rules, right? Move like a speedboat. You're trying to plug the holes. You're trying to get in, find a niche in the market and grab some traction, grab a foothold of the market share, right? The gazelle phase, you move slower. You have your market share. You're trying to enhance that product. You're trying to grow the customer base that you already have and retain the customers that you already earned. Then in the legacy phase, you pretty much dominate the market, and you're trying to keep that dominance with the products that you have. In the initial phase, you move like a speedboat. In the middle phase, you move like a houseboat. In the last phase, you move like, one of those big cargo ships, right? Slow, right? Slow to move. Takes forever to change. Everything's already set, the foundation, everything. Well, at each different phase, you have to change the rules on which you operate your business by. You have one set of rules where you're a startup. You can't take that rules and apply it to the phase when you're in the legacy phase. It won't work. You can't take the legacy phase and apply it to the startup phase rule set. It won't work. You don't have the budget. You don't have all those resources. So you get me? You got 3 phases, 3 different rule sets. You have to understand which phase you're in as a human being and which rule set to operate by, okay? If you're just now getting started and you're scratching your way up out of the gutter like we all did when we were born into this world of humanity, you're in the startup phase, okay? So you do anything, you take the jobs, you take the risk, you throw everything against the wall to try to get yourself that market share so you could get into the gazelle phase, okay? The medium phase. You climb up out of the gutter. You don't take them jobs no more, right? You only take the jobs that earn you a good return on investment, okay? You don't take as many risks anymore, okay? You don't make yourself as vulnerable anymore, all right? Because you could come back and destroy you. Then when you get to the legacy phase of your life, when you got everything's pretty much set and in motion, and you got your investments and this and that, and the business is going, you ride the wave that you created, right? So think about that. That's what you do artistically. But you always got to have the control, foundationally, all right? You can try the AI stuff, you can try this, you can try that, but you always got to be able to go back to the foundation so that you can maintain control of what you're trying to do and you don't cede your power away. And then somehow, some way, you lose your own creation, okay? And that's what's going on. I don't know if you guys heard, but Photoshop, Adobe, everybody's using Adobe for the last 20 or 30 years. Adobe Illustrator, Adobe Photoshop, all this to do their digital art, right? Well, Adobe just passed that thing in their terms of service where, all of your artwork, everything you do gets uploaded to a server up in the cloud, and they have the rights to it because you're using their tool to create with. Wow, okay. So do you see where this is going, right, people? They're going to have a little bit of a monopoly on creation, and they're going to use you to do it, force you to use their tools, and then tell you since you use their tools, they own the rights to your labor. Now, that reminds me of back in the day that when the mining towns, the mining companies used to have a mining town, right? All the miners would come in and they would mine down in the mines, the coal mines or the copper mines or the whatever. And then they would get issued script. They wouldn't get issued money. They'd get issued scripts, all right? The scripts they could only use at the store that the mining company owned. You get what I'm saying? And so the mining company forced the people to buy from the mining store that they also owned. So they never spent any money. They just always made money. You get that? That's indentured servitude. That's slavery. That's coming back around in the digital format, in the digital side, people. So wake up, okay? Be aware of that. Know that, all right? Make sure you own your creation, the fruits of your labor. Think about if you went through all this pain, this suffering, this struggle as a human being, right? You healed from it. You got great insight. You made a fantastic story, character, artwork, whatever, even song. I watched this thing the other night about the Verve, the guys who made Bittersweet Symphony. You guys know what I'm talking about, right? Well, they got their song, their #1 song, Bittersweet Symphony, stolen from them. And they just now got it back in 2019, the rights to it. But it was made in 1997. And so it was the #1 hit and all that kind of stuff. And from that time until 2019, all of that money that was made from that song went to somebody else because of a technicality that the lawyers maneuvered to steal the rights of that song away from those people. All right? And they gave it to Keith Richards and Mick Jagger. And Keith Richards and Mick Jagger didn't have nothing to do with that song. But they gave it to him anyway, and they're the ones who made the money off of it, and the lawyers for them, okay? The record company did it. And just now, in 2019, the guy's been fighting to get it back, and he just now got it back in 2019. But you know what? The heyday of that song's over with. You get what I'm saying? The heyday's over with. So they squeezed all the juice out of that orange, and then threw him the rind 20 years later. And he made that song. That's crazy. They're going to do that to you. They won't have any qualms about taking you as an orange and squeezing you dry and then throwing you to the side. You get what I'm saying? And your fight is for the responsibility for your lifestyle and for the lifestyle of your family. All right? It's all about what you pass down to your children through your bloodline. Think about that, people. I'm talking serious talk right here, okay? Your bloodline, your people. All right? Do you want to condemn your children and your grandchildren to indentured servitude or slavery on down the road because of your careless act of, oh, it doesn't matter, I'll sign this, it doesn't matter, it's easier to do it this way, it doesn't matter, I'll trade it like Judas traded for 30 pieces of silver? Is that what you're barking up? Or are you looking out to make sure that your family doesn't end up in the ghetto, that your family doesn't have to fight and scratch to get out the gutter like you did when you were a kid? Because nobody was looking out for you. You know what I'm saying? That's what this life's all about. This life's all about acquiring that, making sure you don't get it parasited from you, and then putting that into your child so that they can have a more powerful life, a better experience, and push the ball in your family further. That's what we're talking about here, people. All right? So that's what that's all about with this here. Old school watercolor, motherfucker. That's what we're doing right there. Old school watercolor, okay? That's what we're doing. Now, let me go ahead and get into this because I know I'm already at 12 minutes and I got James breathing down my throat, breathing on my neck all the way from England, okay? Seen some of his videos. They're good. We got to have him on soon. I've been trying to get this stuff done and we're going to get him on. So that's what we're going to do. I got a couple comments from my video the other day, and I just want to share them with you because they're awesome, okay? Now, we got D-Wag. He says, bow. I appreciate it, Darren. Bow back to you, brother. Then we got DJ John Titter. Am I saying that right? Is it Titter or Tutor? I don't know. Titter. Why not? Tighter? Maybe it's tighter. DJ John. We love that guy. Okay, those pickled jalapenos look fire, bro. They were fire. And then I got the pickled habaneros. Oh, my God. So good. After you've gotten used to this spice, the heat of spice, you know, capsaicin, you can never go without it. And my favorite is Thai chilies, and I got like a mother-in-law back there. I got like 4 or 5 plants getting ready to yield a mother-in-law. Then what I love to do is I love to pair that heat with sweet. So I like to make jams that are hot, or fudge that's hot, or almond roca that's hot, or whatever, but make it with a hot, okay? So once you had it and you're like, holy shit, this is actually fire, you can never go back because it feels like you're missing out. You're like, oh, this is good, but, you know, I could have had it with that. If you've ever had salted caramel, you know, you've had normal caramel, but then if you have it salted, it gives you that push-pull of the two flavors that make the transition between the push and the pull so good. That's what it's all about, okay, people? That's what it's all about. We got, let's see here, we got Professor Grass over here. We got 10 different artists doing 10 different art for a book. Sounds really cool. I am so stoked about this story. It's called The Path. I am so excited about it. I had a huge insight last night. And a lot of times when I'm getting ready to go to bed, I'm thinking about my stories, and that's when I have my best ideas for my stories, or I'll actually dream about it and wake up and be like, oh, wow, I got to write that down. Or right when I'm waking up in the morning, I'll have really good ideas for my stories. And I had a fantastic idea for this story. It's going to pull book 2 together. Fine, I got it, all right? I got it. After I write it, and if you read it, I'll tell you about it. I can't tell you about it right now to give away the story, but you're going to be like, "Ooh, that's when he had that idea." So yeah, keep an eye out for that. And I'm really excited to produce it because I think, we're going to talk about this when we do our writing challenge coming up. The next 30 days is our writing challenge. Okay, it's in like 4 or 5 days. We're going to talk about what makes a story valuable. How come some stories, when you read them, you're like, oh, that was fun, and you like, it's like cotton candy. You eat it, and you're like, next time I go to the California State Fair or the State Fair or whatever in a year, I'll have more cotton candy, but not until then. Then some stories are like, a fantastic meal that you can't wait to read again in a month. You're like, oh, I'm going to read that again, and I'm going to get some more insights out of it. And then, oh, I'm going to read it again. And every time you read it, you seem to get more understanding, more information, a better point of view. How come some stories are like that, and how come other stories aren't like that? And what's the difference? What's the big difference? And how do we write that way? Okay? A good one that I always talk about is The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho. That's a fantastic story, and every time I read it, I get something more out of it. Right? I love those kind of stories. Or like The Fountainhead by Ayn Rand, or, I do love Atlas Shrugged too. Now, I'm not a big, objectivist philosopher like Ayn Rand was, but I think she writes a good story, okay? And some other stories too. But I'm really excited about that trilogy of books, and I'm really excited. I want to get some banger artists on it, and I want to pay them good, I want this thing to be something that people are excited about. A really work of art that people can sink their teeth into and be like, wow, that was fantastic. That was exciting. I got to read that again. You know what I mean? So, yeah. We got James, of course, he's over here. What did he say? He said the third one is like looking in the mirror, bruv. So I think the third cartoon is what he was talking about, okay? Then DJ John, he said, if you ask me, the people who really run the world use the mega memorials as occult rituals to harvest spiritual energy. Wow, okay. Now that's some heavy stuff that, I actually completely agree with John on that. And he's talking about the Charlie Kirk Memorial and how it was a spectacle and how bizarre it was and how weird it was to have those pyrotechnics going off. And I saw somebody said, it's very much like the spark of life. The sparks, and if you know anything about the sparks, the Ein Sof talks about the sparks that descend into the world amongst the Kelipot. It's a Talmudic, not a Kabbalistic, mystic look of how the world is viewed. And if you start to wake up to that, you start to see it everywhere. Okay, of course, the Kelipot are us. Non-special, non-chosen people. We're just like clay that can be fractured, broken, and thrown away. And the sparks are the chosen ones, the special people who actually have life in them and are super special. And if you look into that, you'll find out who those people are and who they claim to be and all blah, 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 blah. But I agree with you. I think it's a energy harvest, and I think the energy is used to shape society. And now we're starting to talk about some very complex things. And, how I always ask myself, these subjects are all well and good, but what can we use them for, right? I can't rise up and change the world, but what can I use it for? I can use these ideas to put into my story. You get what I'm saying? I can use these ideas to frame a very powerful story. The story then can go and ascend to wherever it could go. The story can actually ascend and go all over the place. I can't. I'm just a lowly person trying to climb out of the gutter. You know what I mean? Trying to get my money out the mud. You know what I'm saying? We're trying to scratch and crawl against the filth of humanity that we find ourselves in. And trying to spin straw into gold like Rumpelstiltskin did. That's what we're trying to do down here. And that's actually an alchemical process that these people actually They use that alchemical bullshit on us all the time, people. And if you remember, the alchemical process just means a process in which a state of change is affected once you've gone through that process. You know, it's a lot like the Hegelian dialectic, right? You know about that, don't you? Problem, reaction, solution. And what you have is you have, what was it? Synthesis, anti-synthesis, and then solution or something like that. But look into that. If you haven't looked into it, it's a big deal. It's what's going on, okay? Now, we got a lot of that chit-chat now out of the way. We're running right at 19 minutes, so right on time. Now, I wanted to bring in something that I'm really excited about, okay? Now, I've always loved Danger Girl, right? I think J. Scott Campbell, is that? Yeah, J. Scott Campbell. Danger Girl. So I got a Danger Girl sketchbook, and I got Lineology by J. Scott Campbell. These are two books that I love, okay? Now, I always love sketchbooks, right? I do. I love everybody's sketchbooks. I love sketchbooks. Love to see how the people put things together. Couldn't get over it. Love it, love it. Now, I love Danger Girl because Danger Girl is about women. You know, there's some of his sketchbook. Whoop, there we go, like that. Okay. And J. Scott Campbell draws women. I love how he draws women. He draws them very sexy and a little bit comical. Okay. He draws, of course, he draws men and everything like that too. Of course he does, people. He draws all kinds of good stuff, you know. He's a fantastic artist, and he draws things that are a nice mix of comical, you know, a little bit of cartoonish, but realism, okay? And that's one of my favorite kinds of comic book art, okay? I love that mixture, okay? There we go. There's another page right there. And if you're not familiar with Danger Girl is kind of like a Charlie's Angels kind of thing, where there's a bunch of women who are pulled together and they're like spies or whatever, and they got to go save the world from super bad guys that are like, one of them's a robot or something, and I forget what it's like, and the exact story, but I absolutely loved it. Now here's his Lineology book, and it's all inks, okay? And I love that. Okay, that's a lot to look at. Let me see if I can't find something a little bit nicer to look at, a little bit easier to get into. Okay, here's a couple of his inks. Very simple shapes, very idealized, beautiful women, very cartoon comic bookish. You can see that. And so I love his shapes. I love the way he inks. Very simplified. This is one of my favorite renditions of Wolverine. I love this style of Wolverine when he's over there in Japan and he's wearing his kimono and he has his katana and he looks all grizzlied over here. I absolutely love that. And to me, that's my favorite form of Wolverine. Idealized like that. Okay. So I love J. Scott Campbell. And loved all his artwork. I got Danger Girl when I was a kid and all that good stuff. And then I followed his artwork and I loved it. And I bought a whole bunch of his sketchbooks and I tried to, you know, learn how he did it and all that kind of stuff. So today, what I want us to work on is putting together your own team, right? We're going to focus primarily on women, okay? Because you have to be able to draw a good woman, right? You have to be able to draw a good bad guy. Evil, you got to draw a good evil, and you have to draw really idealistic to you, right? It doesn't have to be idealistic like overall, but whatever your ideal beauty is, right? You need a good, beautiful woman in your story, in your comic, in your artwork. You have to be able to do that because you need that contrast between the masculine and the feminine to really make a strong, balanced book, right? So today I'm going to put together a team of people, and the people are going to be our team of influencers, okay? And so I put together a fun team of influencers along the line of the Danger Girl, J. Scott Campbell. We're going to have fun doing this, okay? So buckle up. I want you to be thinking about who you would recruit on your team if you had a team of women and then one or two guys, and what style would you draw them in, okay? And that's what we're going to do today. Let me get a swing of that. So here we go. So the first person that we're gonna have is I got my pins again. I got my fine, my medium, my big daddy, and then my small. Okay. So I got my Sharpie pins. That's what we're gonna be using. And what I'm going to come in first is I'm going to come in first and I'm going to do the lettering, okay? So I already went ahead and I did some of this lettering. And I'm just going to go ahead and outline it. Oh, can you see that? Maybe I should do a little bit thicker. See if I can't get away with doing this a little bit thicker so you guys can see these. I'm going to get this small. We're going to outline the first person, their name, and we're going to do their name first because I want this to be kind of like a feel like a promotional kind of thing, you know, where you have like a nice introduction to your characters. So we have first one. And it always helps to just lay this out in pencil first and then go on and just outline the very cool lettering. Flying around again today. So the first person that I got is Amazing Polly. All right, I don't know if you guys watch Amazing Polly, but I watched Amazing Polly for a while, and I thought that she would be a great person to have on a team because she's always figuring stuff out. You know, she'd be a good team leader. She's always figuring things out and going on and doing her you know, conspiracy theory, if people want to call it that, or whatever. Okay. So now we're going to go ahead and we're going to jump in to getting her knocked out. There we go. We're going to go ahead and get some of her eyelashes. And I'm just going to take my time on this. I got my fine just want to be sensitive to the eyes first. The eyes are the most important. Now I can come back in with a heavier line. Get her hair in there. Now that one's almost dead. Let's put that over there. See if I can't find a better one, better pen. Go ahead and put her eyebrows in there. Now we're going to go ahead and fill in some of this eyelashes. All right. And so just use what we've talked about to go ahead and come in here and pay attention to your proportions. Remember what I said about proportions. Making sure that your proportions are right. Now see what's going on right now is I'm thinking, I'm using that pen and I'm saying, wow, I need a thicker pen to really kind of come in here. And because this portrait is so big, come in here and really do the work, or I'm going to be doing this forever. So if you guys can notice the difference in how much faster that is. And that's what we want. We want it to be a little bit faster because I'm not going to be here all day. She would be a great team leader. Cross in there. Even the across, you know, she has a pretty strong face, so that would be pretty good to explain the morality that she would have to exhibit as a team leader. So that would be interesting, right? So there we go. We got Polly right there. Now, what I might do is come back in here and enhance one or two things with the fine so that you can see some of the things that might be key features to help make her stand out as to being amazing Polly. Now we want the portrait to be kind of close. It doesn't have to be close because obviously this is a stylized version, okay? Now we're going to come back in here. We're going to get the next one, okay? So the next person, see that? The next one is going to be Forrest Mommy. Of course, every character is going to have a different representation of what they're going to do in the story, right? So Forrest Mommy is more of the Tim Fatale, you know, the bombshell. We'll go ahead and have her be the bombshell. So we're going to stylize her a little bit more sexy. And you know, you gotta be able to have a good sex. What we're going to, in your story, so what we're going to do is we're going to go a little bit heavier on her eyelashes. Again, I'm just going with the chisel part of this fat marker. So we want to make her lips. Right? A little bow. Now on some of the comic book and Idealize, you can just use little marks to indicate what the shape is supposed to be. Okay, it doesn't have to actually be a nose. It could just be a couple of marks. That's kind of fun about comic books. Okay. Now we've got her chin coming down right there. I mean her cheekbone coming down right there. We got her hair coming off. Okay. The hair is coming out the side. We got her neck right there. Okay. Her hair is over there. And she is a master of seduction, so she's giving us the heart. Okay. So that's pretty cool right there. Okay, so then now we got Forrest Mommy, or FOMO, as the team calls her. They call her FOMO. Let's go. Okay, let's go. And what I'm going to do now is just go ahead and darken in some of this area right here. And this is going to help pop Polly out. Because, you know, we set this up like the golden ratio. Remember that? The proportions in our, when we were doing our composition here. So this is a golden ratio of layout, and we want the most prominent person to be Polly because she's going to be the team leader, okay? And I don't know, maybe they're going to bring down some sort of cabal, candy cabal or something like that. I don't know. You know, we can always find out something fun to do with that. Okay, so then there we go. We got Polly right there, and then we got FOMO over here, Forrest Mommy. Okay, so then we're going to move to our next character. Our next character is going to be James. Okay, James. Because you need a good man with every team, right? And he's English, so he's got the right credentials to do this. Now, the credentials are his English accent. Okay? Right? I mean, that's pretty obvious. He's got to be able to say, bruv, right? And he coordinates all the women, right? He makes sure that they're going to go on their the right missions or whatever. So he's like kind of like Charlie of Charlie's Angels. Okay, so let's go ahead and get James in there. His name. This is kind of fun, coming up with the idea of what each one of them does. And this is kind of going to get you started in your writing process, as a matter of fact. And I think a lot of artists are writers, they just don't know, because they're not encouraged to be writers, because as soon as they are writers, then they don't need writers anymore. You know what I mean? Alright, so we got James over here, right? And he's got his big ass bald head, right? He's got his head over there, and he's got his ear, his chiseled jawline, okay? He's got a big chin, right? And his neck. Then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and fill in the dark and do kind of what I did with Polly, pops him out, right? The dark background. What this does is it creates more interest, because some areas are black and some areas are not black, the background, okay? And people are like, what's going on? You know, and so it gives a variance, which creates in the reader or the viewer a curiosity, and they want to come explore. And they explore with their eyes, and they, you know, look around the page, and different elements draw them in different areas, and that's crucial. You have to think about it. Okay? You have to think about it when you're designing your composition. Okay, and you can use little fun techniques like this, like the different different sizes, different shapes, and different values. It helps to move the viewer's eye around. Now James has his glasses right here. He's got very pointy bow at the top of his lips. Big chin. He's got his glasses. And they go back, like so. There we go. And he's got his brow ridge right there, side of his right. And now what I want to do is I want to put just a little indication of his eyes in there. And what we'll do is we'll color in to give it a little bit of a reflection, like you know, so that it looks like black. So there we go. We got James. And he's like, bro, okay, and that's what he worries about fashion. He worries about the women getting to their mission. He worries about getting paid and all that good stuff. Okay, so that's what he's doing. James is doing. Then we're gonna come down here to our next person, which is gonna be Katy. Katy did. She could be the person who's like mysterious. Okay, she's got that hat on. Yeah, she's got her hair coming down out of her hat. Alright. We got Katy in. Right. And she's got her hat with her jaw, and her hair is everywhere, of course. She's got that very nice hair. We're going to have to get all defined in order to get in here and get her lips right. And she is probably a whiz with audio video, and maybe she can even hack, you know, maybe she's even a hacker, right? And what she likes to do on her spare time is she's addicted to style, fashion, and hair cutting. She loves to cut hair, but always trying to give people her friends makeovers in between when she's hacking on these big computers and stuff, right? So that'll be a fun side story right there, that she's always trying to give makeovers to the different people that they come in contact with. And that could add a lot of comedic relief in our story when we put together this team, right? So we got Polly, who's going to drive the ethos and the morality of the story and a desire for truth and honesty. Then we're going to have Forrest Mommy up here, who's going to be, you know, seduction. She's going to add that the spice of the sexual component of the interest of the seduction. We got James down here who will add the masculine influence and a little bit of humor. We got Katy did, who will add a different component of humor and fashion. And then we have our final team member, and it's going to be Marie, okay? And Marie will add a different component, and Marie will add a strongman component because she's a bodybuilder, okay? And so she'll add that component. Maybe she was super athletic, and maybe she can do things that other people can't do. Like she's the one that's going to be doing the stunts, you know. She has a dimple right there. And she's going to be the one that is taking the risks, like she skydives. And she's just a very tomboy, physically strong woman who does a lot of the stunts, and she doesn't have any fear. She's very courageous, and she's always like trying to help the other girls because they get scared. You know, maybe so that adds another element of fun and potential that we can use to make our story interesting. Because of course women are going to be scared, right? And she has a nice big black ponytail. And of course women are going to be, I mean, hell, you know, anybody's going to be scared jumping out of an airplane, right? And we're going to have her, and she is, like I said, very athletic, and a bodybuilder. And maybe her dad was a bodybuilder, or maybe she comes from a famous bodybuilder family or kickboxing family or something like that. And she's just very athletic. She's very good at physical prowess, physical things, and that's going to add another layer of interest in her story. Okay? There's her ponytail. Just going wild behind her, okay? She's very passionate, has a lot of flair. And so that would be our team, okay? We got Amazing Polly as the point person, right? And she's going to be led by her faith and seeking out truth. Then we got Forrest Mommy, who's like maybe her really good friend, but she's a seductress. Then we got James down here, who's got the English accent, a little bit like Snatch or Lock, Stock, Two Smoking Barrels. Really funny. Then we got Katy Did over here, who's always trying to give people a makeover, but she's the hacker, the smart one. And then we got Marie, who's very physically strong. She can do flips. She's like a ninja, and she adds that component to the team. And then there's our team of truth seekers, and maybe we'll call them the conspiracy theorists or something like that. And we would go ahead and create our own book of Danger Girl, but this would be our team. Go, people. That's basically how you do it. That's how you create a really cool, fun team, and you have the sandbox or the flower bed, the beginnings of a very good story. We created the elements, and now we can imagine what kind of interplay these people would have, because they all have different goals, they all have different desires, they all have different things that they like to do, they all have different subjective interests that they're going to be drawn to, and then that's going to influence their motives, and that's going to create their character, and then that's going to create how they're going to interact with each other. And that's how we start to write. Okay, because when we say, okay, well, if this is our team, who would they be going against, right? Who would this team be going against? What would they be trying to figure out? Who would they be trying to combat, and how exactly would they go about it? Are they a ragtag team who basically met maybe at at their kids' soccer match, and they kind of just started helping each other out of Polly's garage? Or are they more of a sophisticated team who this is what they were, you know, their profession, and they were all kicked out of the CIA or something like that, and they're all disgruntled, and they're coming together because they started to realize that the black budget was all being funded by illicit drug use and trafficking, and so now they want to get to the bottom of where's this money going, what's it being used for, and who's really doing all this, right? And so they're hot on the tracks of the pharmaceutical people who are putting out medicines that have to be taken, and if people don't take them, then the whole world gets locked down for a whole year, and everybody loses their business. You know, does that sound familiar? Huh? So that's what we're doing. That's how you start a good story, and it gives a rich soil in which to visualize how our characters are going to behave, and what they're going to do, and what they're going to solve, and if they're going to be successful. Okay? So get out there, think about your story, kick some ass, and let's fucking go today. Come on, let's go. Here we go.